Christians, we need to be cognitive about what we go off on. Instead of when something pops up in culture and we just freak out going, oh no, this is a thing, we need to not respond that way because oftentimes they've not been a thing. The more that we do that, the more the church, the non-church world goes, what's up with these Christians? Why should we listen to anything? They freak out about everything. Hello and welcome to the Midweek podcast, essentially the healing place. Is the podcast where we examine the scriptures in context and ask ourselves what is happening here. Again, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to a second solo episode with me here. We're going through the book of Acts, and as I said last time, I really encourage you guys, make sure you guys are opening up your scriptures and reading this on your own and walk through it. And if you have questions for us, reach out to us. We would love to help you understand these passages even clearer. Last time we saw Paul when he was in prison. And he stands before a guy named Felix. And once again, he's asked questions. He presents the truth. And Felix just leaves him in jail. At the end of chapter 24, we find out for 2 years he stands there in jail. Felix coming to him only for the sake of going, hey, why don't you just bribe me? Why don't you just give me a little bit of money? I'll let you go. Why don't you compromise to make your life a little bit easier? Yet he doesn't. And now 2 years later, there's a change of authority, and he's now standing before a guy named Festus. Now, Festus, he's a new governor. He takes over, and the Jewish leaders immediately come to him, asking him, hey, why don't you send him over here to Jerusalem? We will take care of this situation for you. Now, in the background, this is the plan. In transit back to Jerusalem, they plan to kill Paul. That's been their plan since the word go. But they are insistent on this. So the question becomes, why does this same plot resurface under a different authority? And what does it tell us about where the real opposition was coming from all along? Again, it shows us that the enemy's got is kind of a one-trick pony. Really is. In that they have one goal, to silence the gospel. Here, this council, they're not after truth. They just want to silence the gospel. They want to silence Paul. They want to continue to maintain the power and authority they have. And that's not good, obviously. It reveals the dark heart that's there before them. And I think that's something we need to understand. I think a lot of people get shooken up when they see things taking place that are opposing to Christianity, opposing to our faith. And we need to make steps. We need to do what we need to make sure things are done correctly and keep ourselves safe and make sure things are done with righteousness and holiness. But we need to understand that the more the enemy does what he does, the more that people stand in opposition to the gospel and say things that just are blatantly wrong or just lies, the more that begins to reveal, people go, man, this just isn't real. And I think at the same time, this is extra for you guys as Christians. We need to be cognitive about what we go off on. Instead of when something pops up in culture and we just freak out going, oh no, this is a thing, we need to not respond that way because oftentimes, they've not been a thing. We've exaggerated what's happening there. And the more that we do that, the more the church, the non-church world goes, what's up with these Christians? Why should we listen to anything? They freak out about everything. We need to be cognitive about the truth. Because if we do, then when there is a real issue, people will listen. The people who are against Paul, they are doing the same thing over and over, and everyone's going, this is not a real thing. There is no reason for you to do this other than revealing your own heart about what's taking place here. So Paul now stands before Festus. He refuses to hand Paul over to them, and he instead invites the accusers to make their case properly in Caesarea. Paul, seeing the danger, uses his legal rights as a Roman citizen and appeals to Caesar. He knows what's going on. And he knows that things are shaking up here. And he's like, look, let me stand before Caesar. I'm a Roman citizen. Let me do this. And the question becomes, Paul's appeal to Caesar, was it a lack of trusting God to take care of him in the moment, or is it wisdom? And I would say this, it is wisdom in that he is trusting in God. We've talked about a lot here at the Healing Place recently about this idea of trusting the Lord and making decisions with the basis of it seemed right to the Holy Spirit in us. When we are walking with God, when we are doing the things we're supposed to do, there will be times where you have to make a decision on certain things, and you don't have time for a 3-hour prayer meeting. You just got to do what needs to be done. And a lot of that times, it's you're walking with the Lord. You make these decisions correctly. Why? Because you're in communication with Him. It doesn't take 3 hours to pray and ask the Lord. There's a natural understanding of yeah, this is right. And this is why it's so important for us to be intentional about our walk with God, about being in prayer, being in fasting, being in the Word, being intentional about doing what's right. So that when there are moments that come up and it's a sudden thing, we don't have to fret and worry about it. We just go, it seems right. It seems like what the Lord has for us. Paul's asking to see Caesar was tactical. It was wise. But I think it was also a godly situation in your own life. I want to encourage you that there are moments in your life where you're going to be, what am I doing? Take a breather. What is the Lord saying? What seems right to the Holy Spirit to you? And let Him lead you. Let Him guide you. I tell this story. It's kind of funny. Story, Bible college days, and there's guys sitting there, and they're in the lunch line, and there's a whole slew of things, lot of options, and there's a student there going right at the lunch line, and people are like, "What are you doing, man?" And he's like, "I'm praying. I'm asking the Lord for wisdom about what to eat for lunch." You don't have to do that, guys. Pick a salad. Pick some pizza. Whatever it is. If you're walking with the Lord, pick something. And He's going to take care of you. He's going to help you out through that situation. But he stands before Festus, and Festus listens to him, and it's like, this is the same thing over and over again. There's nothing happening here. He understands that he's done nothing wrong. And so Agrippa appeals to, or Festus goes, I need to speak to somebody else. And so he goes to King Agrippa, and he asks King Agrippa to listen, to once again have him listen to what's taking place, to see about sending him off to Caesar. And so the chapter ends with Paul, before Paul even begins to speak, he's just been introduced to King Agrippa, asked to present the same thing over and over again. At this point, he's been in custody for years now, bounced between 4 different authorities, and yet there's still no resolution to his situation. The question becomes, what does Paul's posture during this long, unresolved wait teach us about faithfulness? See, during this entire time of Paul being in prison for years now, having the same thing happen over and over and over again, yet not changing, not adjusting his plan of action, not changing the truth, not giving in to make things more comfortable for him. What's happening here? He's establishing a history of faithfulness. He's establishing a history that says, no matter what's happening in the world, I'm going to do what the Lord has said. I want to encourage you. You may be going through certain trials and tribulations. It seems like it's the same thing over and over and over again. Things are being hurled at you that are always the same thing over and over again. Are you walking with a clean conscience like we talked about last week? Are you operating with clean hands and a pure heart? If so, be consistent. Because the more you're consistent, the more that when the claims come against you, the more they sound ridiculous, and the more that is there going, this is the testimony of Christ. Uncompromising, unwavering. This is what the Lord has said. And that is what points people to glory. That's what points people to the truth of the gospel. Our consistency and faithfulness to the faithfulness of God. That's all I have for you guys today. Hope it's encouraged you. Hope it's challenged you. If you have any questions, reach out to us. MediaHub@thpshreveport.com. If you want to know more about the Healing Place, check our website, thpshreveport.com. And as always, if you're in the Shreveport Bossier area, come by the church, 8957 Kingston Road. Love to have you guys here with us at 10 o'clock on Sunday mornings and 6:30 on Wednesday nights. Until next time, have a great week.